World Cafe. It is Cut Copy with Solid. It's a song from their 7th studio album that was just recently released called Moments. Frontman Dan Whitford and guitarist Tim Hoey are here today. I am Kallao. This is World Cafe. Gents, it is so nice to meet. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Good to be here.
The new album is Moments, and I read that the band had upwards of 300 demos to consider for this record. Dan, why did you have a bank of this many demos? Is that something that normally happens with Cut Copy?
There's usually a bank of demos, maybe not, might have gotten a little bit extreme on this one, I think. But yeah, I think probably just started off the back of the last record coming out in the middle of sort of lockdowns. I guess it was sort of around 2020.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had touring plans. Obviously, they went out the window and we were sort of stuck at home. So I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to just write a song a day and see where things lead to. And over time, I guess, just gathered a big bank of ideas, which I guess was the pool of songs that led to this new record.
Yeah. How do you keep track of that many ideas? Like, I think that seems like difficult to have, that volume of output and go, which one's good, which one's not good?
Yeah, I'm still not entirely sure we got all the good ones, but we definitely got to a point where there was so many ideas that I actually had to create a spreadsheet just for myself to refer back to. I'm like, what are all these crazy demo names, in a folder, and sort of to keep them all cataloged. But yeah, I guess the file management at a certain point becomes almost as hard as the songwriting itself. So yeah, definitely was a challenge.
Yeah. Collectively, when you've got all these demos and you're going through them, what is it telling you about this album? What is Moments going to be? Like, what did that reveal to you?
I think the idea was just like sketching out a little idea each time, like whether it was sort of like a lyrical idea or just like a, some kind of sonic experiment. Each thing was sort of like, painting a little picture, like a little tiny portrait of a scene or a person or an idea. And I think that's kind of how I feel Moments came together. It's like these little snapshots. Each song sort of captures something from that time period. And that's, I guess, sort of what it is. It's like life. Life itself is sort of this collection of events that sort of hang together. And I feel like that's sort of what the album is, just sort of painting the picture of the last 5 years.
Would you consider this, and I know this sounds strange to say in 2025, but would you consider this your pandemic album?
I think, well, it's funny. We were so adamant when everything was going down. We're like, there's just no way in hell we ever want to talk about this ever again. But I think just it's hard to deny that sort of like was a pretty impactful thing on the world and probably on us as people and just the people around us. Yeah, certainly probably would have made the record a bit differently. Life would have sort of rolled out a bit differently if it weren't for that. I don't think it's obviously about the pandemic, but that's just the time period that we've lived through. So ultimately it is going to reflect it in some way.
Yeah. How did it feel for you, Tim?
It was interesting because I guess around that time I didn't really listen to music for like 2 years. Like I sold nearly all my gear. Yeah, I just had no interest in anything creative, like music, films, or anything. I think I started surfing and became much more in touch with that and nature. And I was the last person in the band to have a kid, so I just had a kid, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a long time before I work on music again. And then Dan actually just sent a bunch of demos, and I distinctly remember it was about 5 a.m. I was up feeding my baby, and then I just put them on, and I guess the first song I heard was, I guess, the title track, Moments, and it just kind of just reset me in a way. And I think I texted you, Dan. It was like, sun's coming up with my kid, I'm listening to Moments, and we're just kind of like dancing around, and it just kind of completely reinvigorated. And then it just became like, okay, how can we figure out to work on this record as a collective group again, and just kind of, set things in motion.
Thankfully, you hadn't sold your guitar.
No, I still have my guitar.
The guitar.
Not much else, but it was. But yeah, so it was really Cut Copy that actually brought me back to music, which is kind of pretty crazy in a way.
Hey, that's what friends do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really great.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us on World Cafe, Tim and Dan from Cut Copy are here. Their new album is called Moments. So you mentioned fatherhood. You became a father. Was it a little while back or?
Yeah, so my kid's sort of almost 4, so yeah, 4 years ago.
So you both became fathers. Did that change your? I know so many people talk about having a kid changes your outlook on not just how you work, but what you want to work on and what you want to write about. Did you find that seeping into your creative processes?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the time management was the biggest part of it, where it's like, before having a kid, you work from, whatever hours you want. You sleep in, start work at midday, work through till 2 a.m. or whatever it might be, like just totally freewheeling it. And when you got a kid, that flexibility completely goes out the window, and you're beholden to their schedule and whatever little tiny gaps you can find in your day, whether it's, after they've gone to bed or having a nap around lunchtime or whatever it is, like that's your time to work on something creative, and you might be exhausted yourself. So it's sort of, I think certainly a big adjustment at the start, but I think there's some positives, like in a way I felt a lot more focused the time that I would kind of sit down and work on music. I'm like, kind of got to make this count.
Gotta go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They kind of tell you what's good as well. So when Dan was mixing the record, he would send through the mixes, and so I would then get in the car with my daughter and drive around, and we'd listen to the mixes, and it was her reaction to what I knew was good. So she loves so many songs on the new record, and if she starts like learning how to sing them and the lyrics and stuff, that's how I knew it was going to be, a good record.
That's really great. It's better than going, I think we need a 20 dB bass cut here.
yeah, exactly.
You're like, I'm not ready for that. That type of criticism yet.
Totally.
One of my favorite songs on the album actually features a children's choir, When This Is Over, and it has, this sort of playful and melancholy beginning. And then it sort of has this anthemic end, complete with the school kids singing. I just kind of want to know what it was like recruiting a choir for a song, a children's choir.
I mean, it's something we'd always talked about. I think there's so many kind of classic songs probably when we were growing up, that have a children's choir featured, and I think I'd always hoped that one day we'd get an opportunity to work on a track that had a children's choir. But on this song, sort of gets halfway through and then feels like it wants to go somewhere else. And just had this idea of like, why don't we try and, this is our opportunity to get a children's choir right now. Let's make this happen. So I called a friend of mine that's a music teacher, and he works at this school, sort of in the country, kind of a little bit near Melbourne, but yeah, it's like an hour or hour and a half drive from Melbourne. So he kind of teed all this up, basically found some kids that were in his class and cobbled together basically a ragtag bunch of kids to be in this choir. So I drove out sort of not knowing how this was going to work, but one morning kind of drove out to morning assembly, and there's all these kids there, and we're like, okay, let's mic them up and see if they can sing this song for us. And it was beautiful. It was so cool, like working with these kids for a day, and for them too. I guess none of them had ever obviously sung on a record before. And even we discovered sort of as we were doing it, one of the kids was actually like the daughter of one of our really good friends, someone that he went to high school with, and someone that I was a roommate with sort of probably 20 years ago. So there's this sort of crazy full circle continuity to the whole thing, with this next generation of kids kind of singing on one of our records, and sort of one of my favorite moments on the album.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Did any of the kids ask what it was about?
Yeah, well, they were all trying to sort of come up with names for the song, because it didn't have a title at that point. But it was strange for them because they didn't actually hear the first half of the song. All they had was like the second stage. So I guess they didn't know kind of like the full context. They just heard the part that they were singing on. So I think there was a whole extra reveal where they got to hear the whole song. And our friend actually sent us footage when they finally heard it. They played it at morning assembly, and all the kids were like dancing around and, starting conga lines and stuff. So it was just like such a special thing to see.
It's one thing to sell out like Bowery Ballroom or play Madison Square Garden. I'm sure it's another thing to get like a handful of kids like losing their mind over your song. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Let's take a listen to it. It's Cut Copy, When This Is Over on World Cafe.
Step after step, but we're here again. It's time for moving on.
from the new album Moments. It's cut copy with When This Is Over. Dan and Tim from the band are my guests. This is World Cafe. I want to dig into the production on Moments because, Dan, you talked about searching for something you called immaculate production, which just fascinates me. How would you describe immaculate production?
I think a lot of what I was searching for on this record was just finding the perfect contrast between sort of the sort of synthesized kind of mechanical, robotic kind of sounds of like synthesizers and drum machines and that kind of almost perfect world that's created. But also the kind of imperfections and the humanity as well. So sort of having those two things existing at the same time sort of creates this perfect kind of contrast, like that idea of, you're recording a guitar and you're hearing the strings sort of going across the frets or like, hearing the singer's breath in the microphone or that kind of thing, this idea of the sort of really sort of analog, visceral aspect of a recording. So I think sort of almost trying to combine those two things in interesting ways and not have it ever be completely one or the other, sort of going from one world into the other, even within a track. And for me, that's kind of the quest, I guess, sort of finding interesting ways to combine our, us as humans with the machines that we use to sort of make the music.
Yeah. Is it a situation where perfect can be the enemy of authentic, where you're looking for, where you're like, I actually have to strip back some of the gloss, it doesn't sound, for lack of a better term, human enough?
Yeah, you can definitely overwork something because I think a recording in a lot of ways should almost be like a Polaroid. It's like you're capturing, this moment that we're in the studio together or when a song idea came. And I think the more sometimes, when you auto-tune a voice or when you kind of correct the way that a drum is timed or something like it, the more you perfect it, it suddenly loses its magic. So I think you sort of, in a lot of ways, you want to capture at the right time where you're kind of getting things to a point where there's that beauty of the idea as it happens. But if you sort of perfect it too much, I think sometimes you can lose that. So yeah, I think it's definitely a bit of a balancing act, trying to capture it and get the best take you can, but not overdo it.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about this toy box then. Is that I read that you took into the studio that had some like fun gadgets? Would you consider that more organic feel, or is that still a different sort of energy altogether?
Well, I think part of the idea was going into the studio to sort of find instruments we hadn't played before or just things that would be sort of hard to place. So, we're finding things like weird flutes and Asian stringed instruments. And when I say we had this idea to find strange instruments. And Mitchell, our drummer, is just a guy that seems to, accumulate just bizarre antiquities. And he's got like this warehouse at home full of just strange stuff. So he basically had a trailer full of these random instruments that we didn't even, I don't even think he knew what they were, half of them, but just, bizarre old kind of drum machines or, kind of like percussion instruments from the Balkans or like
tapes from Gravity.
Yeah, he had this box of psychedelic, they were kind of like psychic therapy tapes, I think, from the 80s, just like, I guess, sort of recorded as part of like a seminar about psychic healing or something. And so actually half the time we were recording, Mitchell was sitting there listening to these cassettes and we were like, what the hell is Mitchell doing?
He's taking it to heart, clearly.
But in the middle of making one of the songs, Gravity, he just sort of jumps up and goes, I've got this amazing thing. He'd found this little spoken word section that was like perfect for the song. He sort of came in and played it. We just basically recorded it almost word for word on the track where we were sort of working at that point, and that sort of ended up in the final song. So all these random things that were just sort of almost just searching for things that sounded unusual or might catch your ear because they're just out of the everyday. A lot of that came down to Mitchell's trailer full of weird and wonderful stuff.
Awesome. Did you find anything interesting in the play box, Tim, to mess around with?
Yeah, I think that was the interesting point for me working on this record. Is that I just had no reference point apart from the songs itself, just because I wasn't listening.
You weren't
to
listening to
music. Like
music.
I really I couldn't. I'd put on a record and I'd get 10 seconds in and I'd have to turn it off. Like even
Wow.
records that I used to love. So all I had was just like the songs that Dan sent. And as I said, I got rid of all my gear. But then once the record kind of started to come around, I was like, I should try and find some things that I can try and help get inspired, because it's not really music, outside music, that's bringing me to it. So yeah, it was really only the Strega, which Alessandro from Nine Inch Nails, he designed that machine, and the Chase Bliss Audio Mood Pedal. That's all I had to work with. So I just brought those two things in the studio, and then the guitar, obviously, and that was kind of it. But then it was just the songs themselves and being together again, and that was kind of the reference point and the inspiration, really, that I had to gather from.
Yeah, makes sense. Dan and Tim from Cut Copy are my guests. This is World Cafe. Their new album is called Moments. The song belonged to you. You recruited Kate Bollinger, who we met on this show 6 years ago when she was just an aspiring singer-songwriter out of Virginia.
Yeah.
Obviously, doing quite well, living in Los Angeles right now. She does vocals on this track. And then you have Graham Lee playing pedal steel, which is just beautiful. And I kind of curious, like, what you heard in the beginning seeds of the song where you're like, I would like a guest vocalist. I would like pedal steel on this track.
It was a song that from the very beginning felt like it could be a single, or just sort of very catchy. Everyone just would always come back to that one or comment on it. Like people heard our demos and were just like, yeah, that song, it's really got something to it. But it didn't have much structure or like sort of a focal point to it. Like stylistically, we hadn't quite figured it out yet. But I think I just had this vision of like almost, I mean, it sounds very like synth pop, like a lot of the elements to it, but I kind of could almost imagine that sort of having like a bit of a country edge to it or something, like this sort of like almost combining this futuristic synth pop thing with something very old and like a dusty old, country 7-inch or something, like an old singer and the steel guitar in the background. So sort of had this vision for it without really knowing how we were going to do that. But yeah, I think maybe even you suggested like a duet would be a cool thing to try. And a friend of ours in LA knew Kate and sort of said, she's an amazing singer and songwriter, and she's someone that, maybe you should think about working with if you get the opportunity. So we hit her up and she was super keen to jump on the track and open to anything, like open to try things. And she laid down a vocal for it that just immediately sounded amazing. And then we were sort of, I guess at that point, searching for someone to play pedal steel, and we had in mind this album by the KLF called Chill Out, and also their White Room album has like pedal steel on it. We're searching for something that sounded a bit like that. So sort of looking around, and eventually a friend of mine sort of said, well, the guy that actually played on that lives in Carlton, which is sort of the suburb next to mine in Melbourne. I'm like, really? And we sort of figured out that that actually he was local, like a guy that played in this legendary Australian band called the Triffids. His name's Graham Lee, and he similarly was just so up for collaborating. He's like, "Yep, I can come around tomorrow if you want. We'll lay it down." And he was amazing to work with, just like this, incredible guy with just this history of working on amazing music. And I love the sound of the pedal steel, but he's a master of that instrument. And I think having those two people collaborate, even though they come from different places, I think really just elevated the track.
I agree. And I love the fact that it was a duet. You just didn't hand over guest vocals for the entire track. I think it gives it the Cut Copy DNA, and you've got all these different styles at play. It works really, really well together. And now that I've teased the audience with such a nice compliment, I think we should probably take a listen to it. From the album Moments, it's Belong to You here on World Cafe. It's Cut Copy.
Birthday boy, to know
featuring Kate Bollinger and Graham Lee on the track that has belonged to you from Cut Copy. The new album is available now. It is called Moments. Tim Hoey and Dan Whitford are my guests today. This is World Cafe. So the band lives in separate places. It's an Australian band, but you have, Tim, you're in New York, San Francisco, Melbourne. So if you're going to make an album together, you might as well go somewhere fun to do it. So the outskirts of a rainforest seems like a pretty cool place to be. Tell me about that experience of being in Byron Bay.
Well, actually, it's basically where Tim grew up. So
So it's just home for you.
And Mitchell, yeah, we both grew up in that area.
Still romantic? Like, is it still picturesque to you, or is it just like, oh God, I got to go home?
Oh no, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's like, especially once you get out in the hinterland, like outside of like Byron Bay itself. I mean, when I grew up, Byron Bay was like 2 streets. Now it's like this mecca for like Hollywood and stuff.
Really?
Like yeah, a lot of Hollywood stars have houses there and stuff. But growing up, there was nothing there. It was like a fish and chip shop and a kebab shop, and that was it. And then it was just the beach. But now it's changed a lot. But once you get outside of like the town, in the hinterland, it's just like incredible. Like, it's so beautiful. And the fact that there were like music studios there that we were able to track down, it was like, this idea of going home, but yeah, also just a pretty amazing place to be recording.
Yeah. Is it? I know, because you have to be focused. You're recording an album, but also you've got this picturesque area. Is this a place for you to recharge, reset as well, or is it strictly work when you're in the studio?
no, I think it was definitely both. Like just sort of being there, you instantly feel calmer and sort of more relaxed. And I mean, that's the reputation of that area anyway. But I think, for instance, like, I've never been to a studio where you can open these double doors in the control room and just let the breeze in. Like, that just doesn't happen in music studios. Usually you're in a grimy basement somewhere, the visual or just like general sensory aspect of things is not there. It's all about the sound. But this is just like, it was really very unique, I think.
Does that nature seep into the sound of the album, you feel?
I mean, I think so. It definitely sets the bar pretty high for the next time we try and record together.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to top
Where
that.
do you go?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're listening to World Cafe. We are here with Cut Copy. The new album is called Moments. 2026 is going to mark the 25th year of Cut Copy. I could ask you about a million different things you've done, but maybe is there something that springs to mind as like, wow, I can't believe I got to do this over the course of my career? Is there a highlight?
I mean, I feel like there's been so many highlights along the way. It's hard to pick out one particular thing. I guess one of the big ones sort of earlier on was getting the opportunity to support Daft Punk, who were just sort of, in some ways part of the reason why Cut Copy even became a thing. It's sort of one of the massive building blocks of, music that we play.
Yeah.
So I think getting to support them when they came out to Australia and playing a bunch of shows with them was pretty incredible, like a real, a spiritual moment, I suppose. But there's, I guess so many other things that you could probably point to.
Yeah, we were just in Mexico City and we caught up with TV on the Radio, who we first toured America with like 20 years ago. It was like the 20-year anniversary. And we're talking to them about it because they've just started playing again. And it's just like how people respond to your music and how important it is to them. Because I remember saying to them, like, this is like the perfect moment. Like, the world really needs TV on the radio on the stage right now. And then they watched our set there and they were just like seeing people respond to your music like that, like how important that is for people. So I think about that a lot more now. It's just like, kind of take yourself out of it and realize what music means for other people. And it's probably something that I haven't thought about in a long time. So that was a really cool moment 2 nights ago, just with those guys again. And talking about that kind of connection with music and your audience.
That's really sweet. 20 years ago, though, they got you so stoned you missed sound check?
Oh my God. We talk about this a lot, actually.
This is fertile territory.
I told Tunde this. I was like, before we went to America on this tour, like, it was like TV on the radio. Like, to us, they were like one of the biggest bands in the world. Like, we're touring TV on the radio, and then like, the stories, like, oh, they're really sophisticated, they're really intense guys, and it's like, wow, this is going to be really crazy. And they are just like the funniest people. They made us, well, they didn't make us. They were like, oh, you should definitely smoke a joint before you play, before the show. And we
Get you loose. It'll help you
we'd
relax.
never done that before. Like, yeah, absolutely. And then, like, I got on stage, it's like, I can't even feel my guitar right now. And I turned around and they're just like laughing at us. And I was like, oh my God. But then, and then we got caught in the rain and we ended up back like in their like hotel room watching like Adam Sandler movies and like making like just ridiculous jokes. And they're just like the funniest people and the nicest people you will ever meet. So, yeah, it's amazing 20 years later. Like we just saw them and we just instantly went back to that time.
Oh, so cool. That's so cool. Dan and Tim from Cut Copy are my guests. This is World Cafe. New album is called Moments, but I want to end with something from your back catalog. Is there a song from your back catalog that you wish, if you woke up in the morning and found out that it had gone viral and had taken on a second life, maybe a life it never got in the first place? Can you think of an example of a song you'd love to see, like this Cut Copy song, finally, yeah, it got the recognition it deserved?
Wow. If somebody could do that for us, that would be great.
I mean, this is the start. We're gonna
There's
make
like some
this a viral.
influencer that's like looking for, yeah, we'd love that.
Yeah, I think one song that when we were making our album Haiku from Zero, we were so convinced that this song called Counting Down was going to be the big single. And I think we were just so preoccupied with that somehow we ended up talking ourselves out of even releasing it as a single. But it's one that a lot of friends of mine sort of come back to and sort of say, oh, it's such a great song, like I think just pops up in their feed or whatever. But I think I do always just sort of wonder, like, what if we had actually released that as a single? Because it just was, all the way along, we were just so adamant, and the label was as well, like, that's the big single, but just for some reason, it's like the most obvious thing you kind of don't even consider in the end. So,
yeah. Is that cool with you? Do you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, and there's so many things. Like, I'll text Dan and I'll just be like, this song, like this is going to be huge. Like this will have to like chart and stuff. And then things come out and people are just like, oh yeah, I like this. This is cool. So it's funny. Your idea in the band, what your perception is of what you think the big songs are, and then when you release them, what people connect to is like so different at times.
We sort of had a minor kind of viral thing with this track of ours called Zap Zap from our first record, which is sort of the second half of a song called That Was Just a Dream. But I think just sort of somehow got a bit of a head of steam on TikTok. It's basically like instrumental until the last 20 seconds of the song. So just like the most unlikely thing, but for some reason, some kid must have posted it with a video and it's just kind of, just taken on a little life of its own. I don't know. It's almost out of your hands, I think, sometimes.
Ridiculous. We're manifesting right now. We're gonna play Counting Down and from Haiku from Zero, and then someone's gonna hear it. And we're going to make it go viral. I'm just going to say it. It feels good.
That would be great.
I feel good.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it then. It's Counting Down from Cut Copy here on World Cafe.
Under the mountains, quarry towns, spent 10 years there underground to find what sparkles in the light. Hotel rooms and taxi cabs, forgotten memories, all we have. Don't let me die tonight.
It's Cut Copy here on World Cafe, counting down from their album Haiku from Zero. If anybody wants to put that out into the universe, make it go viral in 2025 or 2026, you're cool with me. Dan, Tim, thank you both so much for being here. Congratulations on the new album. Have a great rest of the tour and come back and see us again soon. Cool?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the support.
That's Cut Copy. We're back in a minute with more World Cafe.